Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. A couple of years back, we saw mobster killer Frank Castle run afoul of Jean-Paul Valley while he was filling in as a more vicious Dark Knight. Today, Frank is meeting with the genuine article in pointy ears, as we're taking issue with Punisher Batman, Deadly Knights. Let's see if this clash of vigilantes makes us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. And hopefully Bruce doesn't take it too personally that he doesn't get top billing this time. The cover sees the two characters grappling in the rain. Gives you an idea of what the story is going to be like, but it just as easily could have been a page in the comic itself. As I said with the Thorian review a few weeks back, I do like John Romita Jr.'s art, but for some reason Bats feels off to me here. His left shoulder and bicep look inflated, and his ears are really wide and flat looking. Yet Castle doesn't seem all that peculiar to me. Oh, and the fight is being watched by Joker alongside some dude covered in bandages. I've got two theories about who that guy is. Either he's a patient from a burn ward that Joker abducted for a gag involving a fire sale, with literal fire, or one of Frank Castle's arch-nemesis is a mummy. I know it seems weird, but the guy himself has been turned into an angel and a Frankenstein-style monster. You never know. Written by Chuck Dixon, with art by the aforementioned Romita Jr., Klaus Janson, and Christy Skeel, we open in Gotham, where police surround a paint factory that is currently home to a massive firefight. Jim Gordon apparently doesn't want to move in until he knows all the players involved. It could be the Valspar Consortium, the Bear Gang, or worse, Dutch Boy. On one side, a platoon of crooks. On the other, our boy Frank. His nemesis Jigsaw never returned to New York City after the previous adventure in Gotham, so he figures he's still around here, having amassed a new crew probably, but the people he's mowing down currently work for a guy named Luke Tango. Heaven help us all if they decide to join forces with Burt Waltz or Susie Macarena. Also, if this looks weird, aside from my mosaic censoring, I'm reading from online scans, and I'm betting this was from a vertical 2-page spread where you had to turn it over on its side to read. It's not my favorite gimmick, but moving on. Frank needs some room to maneuver, so fires on vats of paint thinner until they explode, with more of a boom than he expected, worried that there's nobody left to interrogate. But fortunately, there's one goon left. My lucky day. After this, I'm going to the Dairy Queen and treating myself to a medium, no, large cone. I've earned it. On another vertical 2-pager, Gordon is concerned it might be too dangerous to go in until the fire department arrives, and even then they're going to be backed up by tactical officers. Then narration flips to the other star of the comic. My city. A city that's always burning. Literally, if James Tynion IV is writing. A city with fire in its belly. A city that won't listen to its doctor about the severity of its acid reflux. Batman jumps onto the scene, waxing poetic in his narration about how he'll save Gotham block by block as we go back inside the factory. Punisher asks the only surviving goon about Jigsaw, and the guy says he's just a soldier for Luke Tango, and isn't really told anything. I actually like the expression here. The crook seems genuinely scared, and Castle maintains his apathy the whole time. He doesn't scowl or sneer because he knows he doesn't have to. He seems to believe the guy as he prepares to open fire, only for Bats to show up and land on Frank's neck. Which, under normal circumstances, a muscular man that's at least 230 pounds, dive bombing, putting his whole weight on the focus of one other guy's neck, that would be fatal, but, this is a Batman story, so Frank's more or less fine. It was really more of a tickle. He's up and brawling in no time. The story further confirms this is in continuity with the first crossover, as Bruce is aware of who his opponent is and how he showed up in Gotham while he was absent with a case of broken back. He'll need to step up his game if he wants to teach the ex-soldier to stay out of Gotham, but he can almost respect his tenacity when taking a beating. As the sole surviving gangster makes a break for it, Frank notes to himself how he, too, can respect a guy like Bats, whom his pal Microchip pegged as a head case. Gee, can't wait to read that Reddit editorial. But is noticing that his fighting is much more refined from last time, no longer a reckless brawler in a fancy metal suit. The building can't take the strain of the blaze anymore, and the roof collapses, allowing Punisher to escape. Batman figures the best way to track him down is to discover why Castle is in Gotham in the first place. Now, I know it's tempting to jump to the conclusion that given his reputation, the Punisher is in town to kill criminals, but you never know. Gotham has a rich, varied culture. He could be there for the pumpkin carving contest for the Harvest Festival. He could have a layover on his flight from Central City. Or, probably the killing criminals thing. The gangster, covered in yellow paint from the factory, makes his way to an abandoned comedy club, and to Jigsaw, his face bandaged up, and a lot of pills on his desk. He swears he didn't say anything when the gun-toting dude with the skull shirt asked about the disfigured mobster, having made his getaway when some other freak busted in. He's accused of lying by the Joker, making a dramatic entrance. "And you know how I know this, Jiggy? 'Cause he's yellow!" He then shoots and kills the goon. Get it? Jigsaw gets it, but he spent too much time convalescing in Gotham for his liking, not feeling Joker's lived up to his end of their bargain to make him a big man. "Right now, all I have is writing nonsensical screeds in all caps on Reddit and threatening people who disagree with me on Twitter." Mr. J says it'll take time, and that'd be best spent by taking his medicine and letting his sutures heal into his new face, stitched up by a plastic surgeon the clown provided. Nobody trusts a guy with a face like a road map. What if it's an accurate road map? I think that would be a plus. In a storage locker acting as their makeshift base of operations, Frank and Microchip have a brief discussion about being on the same side as the guy that dresses like a bat, before moving on to a gang war that left a power vacuum which Jigsaw seems eager to fill. This is also observed in the Batcave by Batman and Robin, then Tim Drake. No one seems to be in the top spot, but one lingering question is how Jigsaw managed to move in on even minor Gotham mobs without a network, even if it's assumed he's been around since Asbats was wearing the cape. Bruce concludes that he's being aided by someone that knows the city's underworld and would somehow stand to gain by placing Jigsy in a position of authority. Jigsaw Puzzle. The Puzzler! That's who it is! An obscure villain from Batman 66. Quickly, Robin, to Maurice Evans' house. We've got a bad interrogation to carry out. He died in 1989. Then bring the bat shovels. I haven't questioned a perp in 3 days, and I'm feeling antsy. I think you might have a problem. No, you're addicted to interrogating street thugs. Okay, maybe you have a point. At a beach, Luke Tango is buried in the sand. And not in the fun way. He's forced to reveal to Joker and Jigsaw where they can find a guy named Jimmy Navarone, and when he complies, he's left to drown as the tide rolls in. Navarone, meanwhile, is punching around an underling so much that he cuts his hand. You got blood on my shirt, I'd have Lister and Bam Bam make a suitcase out of you. Little known fact about Gotham, some of its meanest henchmen rename themselves after Flintstones cartoon characters. You never want to get on the bad side of Pebbles. Since this particular goon was the one that convinced Jimmy to bring Tango's men in, he gives him 2 hours to find out who's horning in on his turf. Somebody's squeezing me, and Luke Tango's dropped off the face of the earth. Well, dropped into it mostly. The guy promises to get some info, and it's revealed that they're apparently brothers. And given the power structure, I doubt Jimmy is the younger of the two. Bet the other guy is missing the days of wedgies and getting blamed for breaking antiques. Jimmy heads out the door, briefly discussing business with one of his number crunchers, before getting to his car, and his surprise new driver matches Malone. He says he and his regular driver, Lou, were old buddies, and Lou became ill, so he's filling in. They go way back. And by this panel here, it looks like he was prescribed being bound and gagged in a closet. This is exactly why Bruce had so much trouble getting his medical degree.
Next 2 words out of your mouth aren't "see it," then the 3rd word will be, "Oh my God, my crotch, you've punched me in the crotch."
Icing on the cake, one of the bodyguards recognizes Malone, and that seems good enough. As they're headed to the King Rafferty room at 4 in the morning, sheesh, early shift for mobsters. They're tailed by Castle, just in case Navarone meets with Jigsaw. He has Micro dig up as much solid data on Jimmy as he can, which involves hacking his fairly sophisticated computer system. Let's see.
password 2. I'm in!
However, Microchip isn't the only hacker snooping around those systems. Tim's in there as well, and they soon notice each other. Someone with real hackitude is mousing around the Link farm. I'm going to have to get to the magic cookie before him and set up a nastygram for his home box.
Dialogue. 290s.
I kid, but I did look these terms up on Urban Dictionary. Hackitude and magic cookie are apparently actual terms. Nastygram is a business angry letter, and homebox is an acquaintance. So it feels like maybe those are possibly being misused, possibly even a little in this context. And link farms are web pages with links to other sites with more links, which may or may not be correct here, depending on if Navarone is into passive spamming.
Though the definitions were put there sometime between 2003 and 2006, and this comic was from 1994, so, like a lot of terminology, I think all terminology, frankly, the definitions and context could have changed over time.
Back to the story. It's the third stop of the joyride, and Frank is tired of waiting things out. He passes by Malone, figuring him as nothing special. The limo driver gives me the eye. I give him indifferent. I get the feeling that should read indifference, but I could be wrong. He enters the latest destination, Toy Box, which he calls a playroom for degenerates, and is immediately stopped by Lester and Bam Bam. It's looking like things could get ugly, so good thing someone vouches for him, except that someone is Jigsaw, sporting his new scar-free mug.
Did he never think to do this before? It took partnering with an insane harlequin in an unfamiliar city for this to happen? Testament to Gotham's exceptional plastic surgeons, I guess.
While Robin and Microchip continue to spar online, with Tim mentioning the stranger could gain access to the cave's mainframe, Jimmy is on the phone with his brother Jack. Luke Tango was found dead, and certain mob figures are pointing in Navarone's direction. There's a chance they could lose manpower to this setup, and Jim smashes his phone in a rage. And given the ballistics, I'm pretty sure that thing was made of ceramic. Punisher ruins a perfectly good jacket, which looks like it was made of tissue paper, so maybe not that perfect, as he pulls his weapons on Jigsaw to finish his business. While Robin one-ups Microchip by rebooting the back computer, Joker and some goons show up in the club. Batman arrives in a formal 2-page spread to see a tense situation get worse as Castle passes through a hole in the wall, or possibly two-way mirror, one he made by throwing a goon or three through it. He chases Jigsy, the bullets they start a-flying just like Joker likes it. Batman throws down some smoke bombs. I hear his cackle over the gunfire. He can choke on this.
I've been experimenting with different scents lately. This batch I call Broken Nose Chrysanthemum.
As the room fills with smoke, Castle is just getting into the groove of there being no innocents around when he takes a hit in each shoulder. You get in a gunfight, you have to expect to get shot. But you don't have to like it. Time to get serious.
Yes, now is the time to get serious, because up until now, Castle's just been playing Candy Crush in between posting pictures of his dinner on Snapchat.
Much to Joker's delight, Castle joins in the chaos in order to survive it, while Batman and Jigsaw both use stealth techniques, but the latter is more about hiding than going all ninja. Some gunmen are about to fire on the Bat as he's going hand-to-hand, but are cut down by Castle, figuring that he's more or less on the same side as Pointy Ears. When he hears someone behind him, he instinctively throws a buckshot grenade. The someone was Jigsaw, and that kaboom went and messed up his face all over again.
Sheesh, some people just don't have much luck with faces. Not that I'm one to talk.
The real shame is that he had 3 more payments left, too. As an enraged and re-defaced Jigsaw fires wildly, taking out Navarone and some of his men, Batman warns Punisher not to show up in Gotham ever again. I guess killing these guys tonight is fine, just don't come back and do it again. He asks what brought him here as Joker makes for the exit. Then Bats immediately confronts Jigsy. Weird, I guess we're to assume Castle went after the clown? So, we're back to your classic look, huh? Same here.
I guess all that time around Mr. J really did something for Jigsaw's sense of humor. At the very least, he can still laugh at himself, and that should count for something.
Dismissing his deformity as just a couple scratches, he fires hollow points point blank right in Batman's chest. It's odd how he almost looks like he's smiling here. But certainly this is the end of the Caped Crusader, right? Thought you were a tough guy. Thought you were some kind of bad... Nope. Dangerous as they sound, hollow points aren't really armor-piercing, so Bats just grabs Jigsy and orders him to drop his gun. Though I imagine Bats should be more winded, but moving on. Frank indeed went after the clown, who evades gunfire while saying the two of them are the same, aside from their reasons for killing. He taunts about knowing about what happened to Castle's family, almost getting the drop on him, but instead blinding him with his gun's muzzle flash. He goes on that he figures Batman had a similar family tragedy, since his whole gimmick of gadgets and costumes is how a child would react. Frankie's vision is blurry and he's lost some blood, but he can still follow his quarry's laughter.
Just hope that he doesn't find his way to a taping of Bill Maher's show. The laughter will halt to a stop and you'll never find him.
Bats figures Blenderface is the reason Castle's in his territory, so knocks him out and cuffs him to one of the corpses, intending to have him see the inside of Gotham jail cell. An enthused Joker makes his way outside, and Punisher uses the last of his machine gun ammunition to break down the door that was barricaded. As the clown makes his way down the alley, he slips. A banana peel? Now that's comedy.
What's better about him succumbing to an old gag is that he seems to enjoy and appreciate it. This is quality Joker writing, folks.
Frank towers over him, bloody and foreboding, as Joker tries to play a sympathy card, saying he's sick and therefore not responsible for his actions, but could be cured with the right therapy. But the only therapy he's about to get is from Castle's associate, Dr. Handgun.
Are you a real doctor or a doctor like Dr. Pepper's a doctor?
Joker seems pretty nonplussed about it, not necessarily scared, but kind of surprised, until Batman arrives to put a stop to any more killing. Punisher is naturally livid, making the same points so many real-life comic readers have made about the clown's many escapes and how it could end right now. But because lethal force isn't a thing Batman allows from vigilantes on his turf, he tells the Joker to run for his life.
I mean, I get why Batman's doing it, but maybe throw a bolo at his legs to trip him and trap him, so when he gets a few yards away, he's nice and safe from Castle, but he sticks around for the police to pick up. Otherwise, you're just helping prove the out-of-towner's point, Bruce.
The tension building up between these two is appropriately released on this really cool splash page of Punisher decking Batman. I let you have that one because you probably think I deserve it.
Yeah, a lot of people think you would deserve it. Even some of your closest friends. Kinda wonder if he'd let himself get punched more often if that form of charity was tax deductible.
Batman catches a second punch, because his generosity has limits, and throws Punisher aside. If he ever steps foot in Gotham again, Bats will have him in Blackgate Prison. Or Arkham, if it's more appropriate. Frank sneers that he and the clown deserve each other, gathers his gear, and the comic ends with Batman already gone, so leaving Punisher to return to his own concrete jungle, where Jigsaw will eventually turn up, and things make sense. I hate Gotham.
Yeah, totally agree, dude. It derailed in the second season and became pretty unwatchable, if you ask me. That was Batman Punisher, and I thought it was pretty good.
We've looked at sequel crossovers before, where they acknowledge a meeting from the first time, but I was surprised that this actually involved the same players as before, and connected to Castle's meeting with Jean-Paul, at least in a few references and how he frames Batman in his mind. Heck, even the back cover of this one is a lot like the first story. It's not an epic meeting, just these two being themselves and the resultant clash that such differences would result in. I thought narration did a good job of putting you into their headspaces, what they're feeling and the like, and doesn't get too bogged down in tragic backstories. Robin and Microchip show up, but I have to say, their roles didn't really add much to the story. They essentially sneaked into the same system, got into a keyboard fight, and typed a lot in between panels until Drake basically pulled the plug.
But it's not like two guys at their computers makes for compelling scenes and static sequential narratives. There's only so much intensity you can squeeze out of hitting enter. Heck, Tim could have been doing the whole thing in his pajamas while wearing a soda hat with a bowl of cheddar cheese popcorn in his lap. At least then you'd know the stakes were raised when he put the bowl on the floor.
Really, the most interesting thing about that little clash was that, in digital terms, Micro was in spitting distance of accessing Batman's network. Though with Navarone killed in the gunfight, it kind of feels like sort of a dead end. For the suspicion of who'd gain the most by Jigsaw taking over Gotham's underworld, Joker was apparently only in it for the yucks, which, yeah, kind of on brand for him, but it seems a bit too simplistic. Yeah, he saw an opportunity to cause some havoc and was actually funny in doing so, but it just felt like they were building up to something a bit more broad or grand or something. Frank never seems to catch on that this Batman isn't the same one he encountered before. I'm okay with that. Punisher strikes me as the less analytical type unless he's hunting and or murdering gangsters. Your mileage may vary depending on how well you know the character. I dug the art, of course, with several moments that were chillingly ominous or appropriate for the characters involved. There may have been a couple oddities here or there, but nothing I can really complain about.
It's not the deepest story, though there's potential for something in that vein if someone wanted to expand in that way. If nothing else, it shows how starkly different these characters are and that it's okay. Neither necessarily needs to be more like the other. I'm the Angry Spork, man have I got issues.